Smart 24, driving business.
Yes, it's exactly 23 minutes. That is to the top of the hour of 10 a.m. As definitely we're heading into the very last minutes of today's edition of Smart Means Business, your daily business kickstarter for the day. And of course, we deliver to you information that is vital for decision making as an entrepreneur out there. But of course, still to remind you that the Markets on Design platform are on. You can participate, start to 92 hash. And I really believe life will be the best that way. Now at 8:15, that's when the markets open, and they'll be running all the way up to 3:15 p.m. That is East African time. And this is effective Monday up to Friday, apart from the weekends and the public holidays when these markets cannot be operated. But of course, that's not the big deal. These other days within the week are quite very fruitful, and I believe you can find yourself a great window of opportunity to be a part of this market. And now Zabo tells you that it's my money, it's my future. And Altex East Africa tells you that you need to do something new for yourself. Remember, it is 2023. Well, now, of course, as we head into what's happening at UMA, it's day 3, right? Yeah, day 3 of the event, and quite lots of traders are showcasing what they really have. And once again, I'm joined with Rona Nahabwe. She's on ground there, and she's going to be giving us a picture of what is day 3 like. And most importantly, Rona, if we could actually find out if we can compare the attendance here as compared to from Tuesday till date, are we seeing any progression? How's the turn up like? Good morning, Rona. What is on ground on day 3 of that trade fair?
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Andrew, for having me, and good morning to everyone tuned in to Smart Means Business. Well, today is the 3rd day of the UMA International Trade Fair, and we are here because today is a special day. It's a special launch where we are going to have the Vice President, who is going to be represented by who has represented His Excellency the President, who's going to officiate the launch of the trade fair. She's going to tour around and see and assess some of the outstanding exhibitors, and we'll also have a quick feed of what it looks like here at UMA Trade Fair. Now with me is Lydia Tusime, the communications officer here at Uganda Manufacturers Association. And why she's important today, this morning, is because on the UMA showgrounds, an engagement that was held in 2022, there were a couple of challenges addressed by some of the manufacturers, a couple of them, of which, if they are implemented, it would show that the government is really intending to, see that the manufacturing sector really grows. Among them is the high cost of production, shortage of skilled labor. There were problems in regards to power outages, limitations to finance, high interest rates, unfair competition from imports, and so much more. And so with me, Lydia is going to give us what Uganda Manufacturers Association has been doing for the last year to give us an update in regards to the development of some of these policies. They also mentioned something called the bureaucratic red tape, something that has something in light with harmonizing the policies, some of the bureaucracies that are impeding growth of trade. So Lydia is going to give us an overview, the developments that have been happening in regards to the development or to the change of those challenges that the manufacturers raised during an engagement at the UMA showgrounds in 2022. Good morning, Lydia. Thank you for joining us, and say hello to our viewers.
Thank you so much. My name is Lydia. I'm the communications head at Uganda Manufacturers Association. Greetings to all viewers. Today, we are hosting the 29th Uganda International Trade Fair. It is running from the 3rd to the 10th of October. And today is a special one because it's the official opening ceremony, as she has pointed out. And we are very excited that this time around we've actually increased on the numbers of participants, both from the international and the local participation. However, from the last engagements that we had, because as the UMA, our main core focus is not just the trade fairs, but we do advance different policies that support the competitiveness of our manufacturers and the general industrialization in this country. But key to note is one of the factors that really hampers growth of industry, and that is the cost of doing production. This has quite a number of other factors that come into play, which include the finances, the cost of power, the skilled labors, because if someone has to put in a lot more to produce a given product, that also speaks to their ability to compete with countries like Egypt, who have very limited costs of production. So by all means, we as the UMA have been at the forefront to lobby government so that they look into other alternatives or options that they could give us in terms of the taxation regime and the tariff rates, so that they're aligned to make us competitive. And one of the issues has been us advocating for the 5 US cents per kilowatt hour. And I'm happy to report that when the year started, we hosted Honorable Nankabira Ruth, and the main focus was to look at how can our manufacturers be supported to access this 5 US cents. And I'm happy to report that we've made some headway in terms of the direct power purchase, which is a model that is aimed at reducing the costs across the chain in terms of distribution of power, whereby manufacturers will be able to access it directly from the generators of this power.
Thank you, Lydia. Now, I like that you've started from the power outages and promise of Honorable Minister Nankabira about the 5 US cents. They wanted it to be reduced from at least 8 to something close to 5. And the minister said something that it's going to come close to 5, but not exactly 5. But about that, I would like us to talk about the high cost of production. They mentioned something about the taxes that are imposed on raw materials that are impeding their growth and making sales. What have you done as UMA in regards to advocating for them? Because these manufacturers are under UMA. What have you done in regards to advocate for them to have a fair cost of production?
Thank you so much. And let me also point out that we've also been engaging with the taxman and the Ministry of Finance to ensure that at least our taxation regime is made as fair as possible. And one of the initiatives that they implemented this year around, as they were rolling out the budget, is that they did not increase any taxes on raw materials, and that was a plus for us because that has been at our forefront. And what we are lobbying for is to actually make it predictable, because the challenge with planning for manufacturing is really high capital intensive, and if you are not able to make projections and plan for your near future, it becomes a challenge. So what we want is for this budgeting process to be more predictable, at least if they give us 5 years, so that if they made a policy, for instance, if we're not increasing the taxes this year, it should be for the next 5 years, and that is our request, so that someone gets to plan their inputs, their raw materials, and for a long time.
In regards to shortage of skilled labor, at least I've attended some of the seminars that manufacturers, including Mukwano Industries, Steel and Tube, and others that employ some of these students that come from Nakawa Vocational Training Institute or other technical or vocational institutes, where skills that are directed from their technical schools just go immediately to the industries. What has government done in regards to improving the development of the training programs and then also the education system? Because what I realized in regards to a seminar I attended is like these students really have the skills. Yes, they know engineering, they know light, everything that is in regards to vocation. Some of these things that are technical, yes, they do have them, but they lack digital skills, something that is really paramount, especially in this day and age. Everyone has to have digitization as a skill to be able to improve on their big skills. So what has government done in regards to this? And you can even give us an overhaul of technical skills as a whole.
Thank you so much. Of course, skilling is it's a big challenge even to our manufacturers. They've really pointed out this as a main setback. And actually the other problem is that once they train these students, most of them end up leaving without benefiting from these what they've learned from these companies. And as UMA, we've had a project which is called Access to Employment, whereby we link students from vocational institutes to the industrialists. And why we initiated this project is we wanted to close this gap of skilled manpower. However, from the government point of view, we really recognize the effort that has been put into expanding our vocational institutions. And actually, recently they launched the Center for Manufacturing Excellence in Bushenyi. That's the Uganda Technical College in Bushenyi, which is amazing, and it has a number of products. It has quite a number of machinery that are aimed to train, to give hands-on skills to the Ugandans. And I'm happy that government is taking that direction, because that is the future we want, and that is the future we as the UMA are advocating for, us a future whereby we do not have expatriates coming in to do jobs that an ordinary Uganda can do. Yes.
Lydia, what has UMA, or in connection with government, what has it done in regards to bridging the gap that is there to access to finance? COVID hit most of us, and the SMEs that had just started didn't even make it to their first birthday. We are talking about over 1,000 local SMEs that are exhibiting here. You can see how they are struggling, but the issue and the problem and the challenge that they keep raising is limited access to finance. They ask government if government can, improvise and give them access to finance, harmonize with financial institutions, banks, for instance, for lower interest rates so that they can borrow, because if they borrow more, then the manufacturing sector will have to increase if there is private sector credit. So what has UMA done in regards to that?
UMA has done, of course, our main focus is policy advocacy, and we've engaged the different and the relevant stakeholders on access to finance, but this still remains a big challenge because we've not really made any headway. Okay. We tried to engage the Uganda Development Bank, but then the monies have not really come through, yes, because it takes a bit of time and there's a lot of bureaucracy, the paperwork that comes into play. And our request is that if we have a development bank, then it should speak to the needs of industrialists. Let it have the lowest interest rate across all board. For instance, if we are to look at manufacturing, then they could limit on their expectations in terms of the paperwork required. Because first of all, these are institutions which are registered, they pay taxes, they're actually reflecting in the URA database. So by all means, government needs to do an extra effort to ensure that they minimize on the risk, because for them what they told us is on the risk part, because they need to do all the paperwork, the due diligence. But if you have a company that is paying you taxes over $1 billion plus, yes, why wouldn't you really consider them for some of these funds? Yes, because at the end of the day, that is the main purpose of a development bank, to give at the lowest interest rate, because commercial banks are not going to serve us, yes, any purpose. And in the region, we are competing with very many. Right now, we are under the Africa Continental Free Trade Area, yes, and there is no way we can compete with countries that have interest rates of 2%, of 3%, when we have over 20% interest rate.
Well, there you have it. We've just heard it from Lydia herself. There is still a gap, a big gap, to be precise, that needs to be bridged in regards to access to finance. And she hinted something in regards to Uganda Development Bank, the National Bank, where SMEs should be getting at least lower interest rates so that they can be able to grow their businesses. And I think this is something the government should really take upon. And if it is really deliberate about implementing the policy of growing the manufacturing sector, as we wind up and as we are getting closer to the end of this conversation, there is an issue of unfair competition from imports that is impeding the growth. At least this one I can attest to it, especially for the local SMEs. Why doesn't the government at least put high taxes to the imports that are coming in, so that these other local manufacturers can grow, and you can have, a sized and a realistic approach in regards to developing the manufacturing sector? Why are the imports still coming in freely? Why? What's the issue?
I think it's not about curtailing on the imports, because we have markets of demand and supply. We are in this business together with other stakeholders, because cheap imports come in for a reason. They are cheap because of their costs of production in their countries of origin. However, what government needs to do is to make our local manufacturers to be able to compete with these imports that are coming in. Because at the end of the day, if a manufacturer is putting in so much to produce a product, that definitely the cost of the final product will not be any less. Yes. So we need to benchmark. Government needs to approach this from a policy perspective because we cannot just stop imports coming into the country. Yet we also have our products going in there. But what we need to make sure is, how do we make our own products competitive in terms of price? Because they come in cheaply. But then what can we do to make our locally available products to compete in terms of price? So I believe that is the focus that we need to direct our conversation. And because we've been opened to the Africa Continental Free Trade Area, and we are competing with giants like Egypt. There is no way you will compete when their cost of power is less than 3 US cents. Yes, and their access to finance is really well structured. So I believe if we are to beat the imports coming in, we need to make our products more competitive in terms of price.
Yeah. Finally, in regards to the challenges that some of the manufacturers raised, was something that has to do with the bureaucratic red tape. And I can tell you this for a fact that I've interacted with some of the manufacturers, especially those in the high end, where they mentioned that government really needs to collect its policies of attaining certification, policies of trade tariffs, everything that has to do with growth of their businesses. At the end of the day, if businesses grow, then finance is the one that benefits, and URA and the likes of UMA, you know. So what are those bureaucracies that have impeded growth?
I may not really. The bureaucracies have been resolved to a great extent because of this digital transformation, and government recently rolled out their online platforms to cater to simplify the ease of doing business through the different, for instance, registration has been put online. If you get to taxation, everything has, at least the transition has been made towards that.
But most SMEs still struggle, especially to attaining some of these documents.
Yes, they still do, but then there has been an effort to try and bridge this gap with the digital helplines and the digital tools, the different websites that have been put in place to help these SMEs. However, there's still a big challenge in terms of the red tape, and I'm not going to be an advocate for government because they need to pull up their socks. They need to do more in terms of at least they need to train our SMEs on how they can use these platforms, because those have made it easier. Instead of lining up at someone's office, you can do this online, and that is that is our theme this year. We are driving manufacturing and trade efficiency through digital transformation and innovation, and that speaks to what the future that we want. We want something that is going to be simplified, but that is going to help our members to save time, because if you hold up an SME seated at your desk for 4 hours, 3 hours, that is time wasted. Yeah. That would be valuable time that they would put into production. So having the digital transformation is something in the right direction, and I'm happy that government recently launched their national digital transformation roadmap, and we believe it's going to, if they made these synergies with the different stakeholders and the relevant MDAs that support manufacturing, it's going to be a game changer. But on the other hand, we also have a role to play to ensure that our SMEs are trained to be able to access these services online.
Thank you. Your parting remarks in something that you might have in mind as UMA that government really needs to implement, just like in a few minutes.
I think most have been said, the biggest challenge is on the cost of production, whereby other factors come into play, and precisely that is our request, that the cost of production is as minimal as possible to make us more competitive as industrialists.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Lydia. That was Lydia Tusime, the communications officer at Uganda Manufacturers Association. She gave us insights in regards to government needs to collect its policies that should, help growth of manufacturing. She also hinted something that has to do with limited access to finance, which the Uganda Development Bank really needs to up its game. In regards to high costs of production, that she also hinted on, and I think government really needs to be deliberate if it is really passionate about the development of the manufacturing sector. This is all we have in regards to the third day of the Uganda Manufacturers Association Trade Fair, International Trade Fair, and we'll be bringing you more insights in regards to this development. As of now, Andrew and Mercy, this is all we have. Thank you for having me.
All right, thank you, Rana, for that report, and definitely that brings us to the end of the Smart Means Business Edition for today, and thanks for being a part of it. Till tomorrow, good morning.
Smart 20.